mortgaging everything you've got, and now it's come up short. What does that do to Dennis Patolo and your wife and your kids?
Well, this is racing. This is what, the cards I was dealt. This, unfortunately, I can't blame anybody but myself. But just to be here, I think, for me, everything was paid for when I qualified for the race.
Paul, I think it takes a lot of guts and determination to admit the situation.
Dennis Patolo, now the story complete. Bobby Rahal, he runs fourth. And the antenna at the front of his car looks like it's got a little chunk of rubber from off of one of the other tires as Rahal makes what should be a routine stop.
I also thought, Paul, that was very credible for Dennis. He didn't try to dodge the bullet. He said, I made a mistake. He's a rookie in the field. He doesn't have the experience of a Nigel Mansell or a lot of other people out here, and he just made a mistake. Unfortunately, you can't blame a guy for that.
What had to be a terribly embarrassing moment. Bobby Rahal in and out, though, 15.5. 200 miles to go in the Indianapolis 500. Al Unser Jr. trying to catch his teammate Emerson Fittipaldi, who is 28 seconds ahead, running all alone in the lead.
And you'll see the Penske cars are not always the fastest in the curves, but they're able to accelerate down the straight with such superiority to the others. And you watch this happening right now, Al Unser Jr. in the red and white car, that they're able to keep moving through the field with ease.
That's Mauricio Guzman that was maneuvering down to the inside. Jack Harut, you have an update?
Well, Paul, there may be the first changes made on the Mercedes cars of both Emerson Fittipaldi and Al Unser Jr. The discussion is underway in both pits, maybe changing the wings, trying to get rid of a little bit of push that has first plagued Fittipaldi and now is beginning to plague Al Unser Jr. Let's check in with Gary Gerald as the Penske team gets ready for Unser and Fittipaldi.
Scott Brayton for John Menard had been running in the top 10 very steadily, very quietly all day, but when he came in that pit stop, you noted that he came in quietly. The engine was off. They couldn't get it restarted. They're working constantly with the engine, but it may be terminal here for Scott Brayton.
Jimmy Vasser into the pits. He was running in fourth place as he came in for his routine service under the green. Routine stop and back into the action.
Paul, down here in turn two, I noticed little Al has not been being able to keep up with them. He's been losing a little bit going into the through the turns and the traffic.
Well, Bobby's coming into the pits right now, possibly for a change in his setup. It'll be interesting to see whether he improves when he goes back out.
Well, Sam, the latest word we've received is they've elected not to make a change. We'll have to wait and see if that is the case. Jerry Briand, Richard Buck on the outside, they'll change tires. Doesn't look like any wing adjustments, and it will simply be an exchange of 4 tires and a full load of fuel.
Yeah,
meanwhile, go ahead, Bobby.
He's already made one change to the right front of the wing, and probably a stagger change. I watched the right front guy just really quick make a half a turn on the right front there.
We're watching Emerson Fittipaldi now. We'll see if they make any adjustments there as well, gentlemen.
0.9 seconds.
Fittipaldi was into the pits as the leader. Al Unser Jr. already on the roll.
Now keep in mind also, Paul, that these two cars have 2 different types of downforce. Emo has the lesser downforce. Little Al has the most downforce.
Remember, Roger Penske has won 8 of the last 15 Indy 500s, but he has rarely dominated one of the races as he is today.
Let's take a look at the Valvoline running order after 122 laps and a 15-second pit stop for Emerson Fittipaldi. Now remember, the pit stops have occurred since this running order was given. We look down through the entire field. And Jacques Villeneuve continues to sit in striking distance of the leaders. This young rookie, youngest kid in the field, is driving a spectacular race. Fastest rookie coming into this race.
His dad was killed when Jacques was just 10 years old. He never had the opportunity to learn from him the way the Unsers and Andretti's did from their dads.
So at Indianapolis now with under 200 miles to go to the finish of the Great 500. We've had a race filled with incidents, but also filled with action. We'll be back.
The 78th Indianapolis 500, this ABC Sports exclusive, brought to you by Cadillac and your Cadillac dealer, creating a higher standard. Craftsman, a line of 1,600 hand tools made in America, guaranteed forever, only at Sears. The Valvoline Performance Team, and Miller Lite, great taste, less filling. Can your beer do this?
Well, with the stop by Emerson Fittipaldi and Al Unser Jr., Jacques Villeneuve picked up the lead of the race, but he is already on the pit road. As we look at the rookies and how they are doing here today at Indianapolis, one of those things that we covered in the pregame to this race. But now here is young Villeneuve, who is really driving a spectacular race.
What does this remind you of? A young Mario Andretti to me.
Well, I'll tell you, it's the best rookie I've seen here for a long time.
And Paul, by this fuel stop, this team ought to be able to make the rest of this race in only 3 stops. They are going to take as much fuel as they possibly can. You can see they've dropped the jack, and they are just going to take a full load and put Villeneuve back in 16.5 seconds, a very quick stop.
I don't think you had to worry about him stalling that engine leaving the pits either. He had plenty of revs, and he was spinning those tires.
While he was in the pits, Emerson Fittipaldi picked up the lead of the race once again. Last we saw Scott Brayton, he was stopped in the pits for a lengthy stop, and Gary Gerald, that's gone from bad to worse.
Indeed, Paul, he's out of the car. They take out the spark plug, something in the engine, badly fouled plug here. Scott had run as high as 4th. You had a couple of close calls, you said out there. You nearly got nailed in a couple of those incidents.
Yeah, well, the first one was when I believe it was Groff and somebody else hit. I had to go down in the grass to keep from getting hit, and then Vitolo come around me and hit Nigel on that warm-up lane into caution.
How tough is it to just be in one race this year?
Well, I'm hoping that we're going to get to do more, but we've got a lot of testing scheduled for the off-season right after this race, and I don't know how many races I'll be running, but it felt good to get out there and race with the guys.
Thanks, Scott. Paul?
Now that spark plug, I look at that thing, it's not a foul spark plug, it's just a slight correction on that. That's engine pieces from the piston that are in it.
There didn't look like there was a whole lot left.
John Andretti stalled there. John Andretti in the pits. He stalled the engine. We've been trying to locate both Mike Groff and Roberto Carrero so we could talk with them, but they've left the track apparently frustrated with their performance today.
We got
Here is
Emo
Emerson
coming in.
Fittipaldi. You got it, Danny. Emerson Fittipaldi.
Yeah, this is definitely unscheduled. This is unscheduled. He's got some kind of a problem if he's coming in right now. He just pitted.
All right.
Danny, what the problem is he's picked up some debris in the radiator. They have been trying to stay on top of it on every stop. You'll see a crew member reach to the inside the tunnel area of the side pods. There they go, Rick Reineman covering one side, another crewman on the other. They're trying to clean it out. They're beginning, and you can hear a little bit of a misfire as he began to pick up the throttle, but he's off and away.
Remember, these engines will get pretty hot. It only takes a little bit. They're setting their turn about 9,500 on the Mercedes engine, and it only takes a little bit. And remember, the drivers can't watch the problems all the time. The problem was probably discovered via the telemetry to the computers.
Okay, and one other thing that they did there, you notice that they refueled the car again. So he will be out of step a little bit with Little Al.
So they started with 3 cars, the Penske team. Paul Tracy dropped out. Now Emerson Fittipaldi has had trouble, and Al Unser Jr. leads the race.
And you got to remember, everybody, that these radiators, when the cars are made, are all very marginal. They're made just to barely cool, because the smaller the radiators, the faster they go down the straightaway. So any hot dog wrappers, hamburger wrappers get in there, just ruins the cooling.
So Al Unser Jr. picks up the lead of the race as his teammate Fittipaldi makes an unscheduled stop to get that debris out of the radiators and coolers on his car. And there's Little Al, the pole sitter. The best start he's ever had at the Indianapolis 500. He led the early laps. Fittipaldi with the stop drops back into second. Villeneuve with his stop drops back into third.
You know, Paul, on the radiators, again, back in the old days, they used to put screens and bevel them out. And now today, they make venturis out of the radiators just like they do underneath the cars, and they suck and draw the air through. So that's the reason they're like a vacuum cleaner.
Let's go back to the Penske pits and Jack.
Paul, you know a racing car can cost as much as $500,000. This plastic bag probably cost maybe 2 cents. This is exactly what found its way into the radiator pod of Emerson Fittipaldi's car. It might cost him $1 million in a win in the Indy500.
Most expensive plastic bag on the planet. Al Unser Jr. leads. Fittipaldi second. Ray Hall continues to run steadily in 4th place with Michael Andretti 5th, Jimmy Vasser 6th, And there we take a look down. Let's take a look at what they look like as we watch them. Fittipaldi, there he is in second, and the young rookie. And then Bobby Rahal, Michael Andretti, and Jimmy Vasser. We'll be back as the 78th Indy 500 continues. The Goodyear Blimp Spirit continues to provide these outstanding aerials from 1,000 feet over the track. Mercedes-Benz has been a story much of this race, and a big part of racing history, too. Sam Posey reports.
The three-pointed star of Mercedes-Benz. It stands for quality in the luxury car market and for near invincibility in racing. Exactly 100 years ago, the German company built the world's first cars, then won history's first real automotive competition, a race over French roads from Paris to Rouen. The engine, a V2, revving to a mere 700 RPM and producing not quite 4 horsepower. In the years before World War I, Mercedes used its victories in racing, including an Indy win, to prove to the buying public that the company's engineering was second to none. In the 1930s, with Hitler in power in Germany, Mercedes dominated European Grand Prix racing, and their silver cars became a dark symbol of the emerging power of the Third Reich. During the war, the Mercedes factories were destroyed. As the company rebuilt itself in the late 1940s, a major goal was to get back into racing, and in the mists of Le Mans, they did, finishing 1-2. Reims, France. Mercedes returned to Grand Prix with streamlined cars that made everything else look obsolete. They won and then just went on winning until the end of the following year when they withdrew from the sport. They were the best. There was nothing left to prove. But as the years went by, the achievements receded into the past. And 5 years ago, Mercedes risked their reputation with a return to big-time racing, to sports cars at Le Mans, and they won again. Then 2 weeks ago here at Indianapolis, Mercedes took another high-stakes gamble, going for the pole with a brand-new engine that had never been tested before in competition, and they won it. Can they now win Indy with this engine? It would be a great story, but it would be business as usual for Mercedes-Benz.
Bobby Rahal continues to run up in the field. Here, the way the engines are performing in the top 4 right now. Mercedes has 2 positions. Ford Cosworth XB1 and running in 4th as well, Robbie Gordon. After we came back to green, look at this group as they come off of 4.
What a traffic jam down here in 4. They were 3 abreast through turn 4.
Whoa!
Whoa, guys, easy on those moves. There's a lot of racing left.
Michael Andretti just veered across the main stretch. Here's his onboard camera now. Well, I'll tell you, you talk about a traffic jam. He just scared Brian Herta pretty bad there on the outside in A.J. Foyt's 14 car.
I bet Brian really got a surprise right then. He started pulling in the turn, and whoa, Michael was already there.
We got a glimpse from Bobby Rahal's car for a moment. It's still a bit of a traffic jam as they come to the north end, Danny.
Well, it is, and I can't believe it. Little Al's got to be happy to be kind of strung out now a little bit in single file, because that must have looked terrible to him.
Well, finally, they decide single file is a little smarter. Boy, what a set of corners for that group. And much of it not even for position. They were just caught up that way. Bobby Rahal now behind Herta. The order is Fittipaldi, Unser Jr., Villeneuve, Gordon, Michael Andretti, Rahal, and Jimmy Vasser. Let's go to Gary Gerald.
Raul Boesel, you nearly won this race. Last year there was bitter disappointment. Now it's disappointment of another kind. Tell us about the problems and the frustration.
Yeah,